Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC, investment advisor representative, Cambridge Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Financial planning services through Andover Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Andover Advisory Group are not affiliated. Cambridge does not offer tax or legal advice.
Good morning, Justin. I want to thank you for your hard work. The information is a big help, and I appreciate what you did. Enjoy the show.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you for the information.
You're very welcome.
Okay, Justin.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You're right on the money, Jeff. How are you doing this morning? Thank you.
Well, those are good questions. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're going to hear stuff here that you don't hear anywhere else on radio.
And you don't forget it.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us this morning. It is March 8th, 2021, and this is Talk Money. For those of you who may not be familiar, my name is Jeffrey Shank. I'm a chartered financial consultant, owner of Andover Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. And we do the show weekly, and the idea here is to keep you informed about the latest changes in the tax laws and give you some ideas and some tips on personal financial planning. And with our ultimate goal is to raise your money IQ. Good morning, Lou. How are you this morning?
Doing very well.
So the Congress was busy working last week.
Where are they now?
They survived the March 4th scare. Worked late into the night.
What happened on
Friday
March 4th?
night. What didn't happen on March 4th?
Okay. Yeah, what didn't happen on March 4th?
Oh, there was a conspiracy theory that
I see.
that somebody was going to be
Another
installed.
insurrection?
Another insurrection.
Yeah.
There was some chatter.
Guy in Elkhorn or something going to take over the Capitol?
Terrorism.
Yeah.
There was some chatter.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad everybody's okay.
No, they did. They raised the alert, and I think the House, after they got done with their business, they went home late on March 3rd, I think, and yeah.
Yeah, good. Like I said, I'm glad everybody's safe.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
And they were hard at work in the Senate anyway, and they passed the latest round of stimulus, pandemic relief, and it goes back to the House. I'm not sure exactly why. I think it has everything to do with the reconciliation process.
Really?
The Senate version didn't match up exactly with the House version, so now it has to go back to the House in order to make it law. And I think that's going to happen tomorrow, Tuesday.
Okay.
I think, but
that's new. I'm not familiar with that procedure.
Or maybe it was just normal procedure where the Senate said we like it, except and a big piece of it was the minimum wage.
Yeah,
the minimum wage increase to $15. I believe that was in the bill when it got to the Senate.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it was, and they had to go through this procedure to take it out.
Right.
And then so it may have been some other change. Oh, I think Joe Manchin had some changes in mind that they were able to incorporate. So that's going back to the House, and they have to revote on the Senate version of this, or the Senate changes of this.
Yeah.
And then it goes on.
We'll wait on pins and needles for that.
It's unlikely that anything is going to change, and that it's probably going to pass the House. So this becomes law. So I figured we'd take some time today.
There might be a crucial piece of pork missing then.
There could be.
Yeah, who knows?
It could be.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because of the slim margins now,
we need term limits and clean bills. This is the two things we need most of all in this country right now: term limits and clean bills.
I think it's see you're talking about this. This is akin to replays in professional sports.
No, it is not. I would have told you this. I would have told you this 4 months ago when they started working on this. This
is akin to replays in professional sports.
Yep.
Where there's going to be some bad calls. Okay, there's going to be some bad calls.
Yep.
We're only human,
right?
But it all evens out in the end. why are we taking all this time to putting all this technology in to have this clean game, right?
Yep.
That's part of the fun.
That's part of the fun.
It's part of the fun.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
It's all going to even out in the end.
Is it?
Yes. So here's the problem with replays.
Yes.
Now the judges, the referees.
Yep.
There's no pressure. They make a bad call. Don't worry about it. We'll get it right in a replay. So they start making bad calls.
Yeah.
Or if there's a question, I'm going to lean this way or that way because I know if it.
This is more like to continue the analogy. This is more like a game with no referees. That's what this is more like.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not.
No one's paying attention to anything that's going on right now.
No,
And no one cares. And we're going to do what we're going to do. And just, we have the vote, so let's just do it.
You want perfection. That's not the way it works. I guess is my point.
No, I want effective policy. That's what I want.
So here's the thing. So you change those rules, just like in sports. You change those rules for the refs, and now the pressure is off the refs. Now you take away those vagaries, and suddenly they can do anything they want, and just say, okay, here's all the steps. We don't have to worry about this or that, and we're just going to push this legislation through. I don't want that. I want it to be difficult to make new laws. I want it to be very difficult to make new laws.
No, I want it to be difficult.
It's just
Yes.
my.
I want
my
it to be
point.
difficult to hand federal employees $1,400 a week for the next 15 weeks, when, as far as I know, a federal employee hasn't missed a day of work since the beginning of the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think a federal employee has missed a day's pay since the beginning of the
Well,
COVID
I
crisis.
think government employees, generally speaking, would be be accurate. Although the latest jobs report came out and it did show
Mhm.
that there was some decrease in payrolls in government work.
Were there?
I don't know if it's federal
Yeah.
or state, but there was some.
So they're getting
significant decreases.
$1,400 a week. I'm theoretically getting $1,400, which, by the way, I'm just going to hand back over to the government. I'm just paying my quarterly tax bill with it. So it basically goes
so
from
you
the
get to
federal
keep 14
government to the city government. So I don't know what's going on there.
So the latest round of stimulus.
Yes.
There's something in it for everybody. We don't have enough time to go through the entire bill, and just the individual provisions of this, so the provisions that are going to affect the individual.
Mhm.
There isn't enough time today just to go over those, but I wanted to highlight a few, and I think for the next couple of weeks, maybe longer, we're gonna talk about this because I see some significant opportunities to do some planning, and because it's coming so early in the year, gives you an opportunity to make some changes in your strategy or come up with some strategies and make some changes in the way you do things,
Right.
in order to take full advantage of the provisions of this particular legislation. And again,
Interesting. Even beyond the check, even beyond the $1,400
even beyond the check,
yeah.
but just the check itself.
Yeah.
The stimulus check you're talking about,
Yes.
the stimulus payment.
Yes.
Yeah, just that alone. There's some things in there that you need to know, and may create some opportunities again, because, well, starting with the thresholds,
right?
The adjusted gross income. If your adjusted gross income exceeds a certain level, you don't get it. But here, so we'll talk about it and go into some details here. So they're talking about, or included in this bill, is a $1,400 payment to every individual in the United States that has a Social Security number.
Wow.
You have to be over a certain age.
Okay. I was gonna say.
It's not your kids.
Yeah.
Right. But there is a payment for children, but it goes to the parents.
Right.
Yeah, so you have a Social Security number, and you get a $1,400 payment. That's on top of the payments that they made as part of the original first two stimulus.
They extended it beyond age 17 too, didn't they? For dependents.
We're going to get to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You're right.
My son and I are going to have a discussion.
So, to qualify for the $1,400 payment, a single person would need to have an adjusted gross income of $75,000 or below.
Mhm.
If your income exceeds the $75,000, you don't lose it entirely, but it does phase out pretty quickly. $80,000 is the top.
Yep.
So between 75 and 80, you don't get the full payment. They prorate it depending on where you are on that in that range. So let's start right there. You'd want to keep your AGI for 2021 less than $80,000 in order to get any payment. And if it's less than $75,000 or less, you get the full payment. But they're not going to look at your 2021 AGI because it isn't out yet, because they want to make the payment now. So what are they going to do? They're going to look at
your most recent tax return.
Your most recent tax return, which could be 2020,
right,
if you've already filed it, or 2019.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say, my first, well, actually, let's talk about for people filing jointly. So for heads of household, adjusted gross income has to be 112.5 or below.
Yep.
So if you're a single mother working, you could have income up to 112.5 if you file as head of household.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's a nice increase, I think, or
yes.
A level that's going to make a lot of single parents eligible for that payment. For married couples filing jointly, that number would be 150,000, twice the single.
Yep.
Individual phases out at 160.
Oh, yeah.
So again, look at
very small window,
and that's to be eligible. So it's just like the others. It's a tax credit. The previous bills were 2020 tax credits, which, by the way, if you didn't get your payment, but you qualified for it for some reason, you get to claim it on your 2020 tax return when you file it,
right,
as a tax credit. And by the way, and this is important, if you got the payment, but it turns out your 2020 tax return shows that you wouldn't have been eligible, but they based it on 2019 or even 2018 the last time around, they're not asking you to send it back.
Nice. Yeah.
Which could be true, and I don't know if it is, so be careful.
Yeah.
Which could be true for this round as well. So what does that mean? Planning opportunity number one.
Yep.
You should take a look at your 2019 tax return and your 2020 tax return,
right,
and decide which one of those makes you eligible for this next payment.
Right.
Forget about 2021. You want to look at 2019 and 2020. And if 2020 would make you ineligible, you may want, and 2019 makes you eligible, you may want to postpone or delay filing that income tax return.
Wait until you get your check.
Wait till the check comes in.
Yeah.
If it turns out,
if you've already filed your 2020,
you're, what do they call it? Out of luck?
Out of luck.
There's a modifier.
Can I amend? Can you amend your tax return before it's been processed?
No, you can't. And what would they do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Withdraw it. Call them up. Wait a second. I made a mistake. I didn't want to file that.
Allow me to reiterate.
No, if you've already filed it, I think it's too late. And so if you filed it already and it turns out that you're not eligible and they're going to look at the 2020 tax return, well, that's fine. But 2021 is an opportunity to get that stimulus payment, that $1,400. Why? Because
why?
Well, because if it's a tax credit.
Yep.
And it's based on the 2021 taxes.
Oh, I see.
So just like,
so if you don't qualify now, you could.
If you don't qualify because 2019 and 2020 didn't made you ineligible.
Interesting.
But you are at those levels or below for 2021, then you could claim it as a income tax credit.
Get a couple kicks at the can here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you weren't eligible in 2019, 2020, that suggests that you're in a tax bracket that would make you ineligible in 2021. So you're going to have to work. Well, not work.
Plan.
Just plan.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do some things to make sure that 2021 would make you eligible. That would be adjusted gross income if you're a joint filer, 150,000 or less.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's $1,400 per person. And that includes your dependent children. It's because of the way they've been talking about it, a family of 4.
It's full 1,400 for dependents.
Full 1,400 for dependents.
That's 52 grand for
5,600.
5,600.
Is that right? That's the number I heard. 5,600 for a family of 4.
Yep. Yep. My math was off considerably. 5,600 for a family of 4.
That's better than the for family anyway. That was better than the last round because it was just $600, right? Per dependent. So let's see. Payments for children decrease in the same way. So they're not looking at them independently in terms of their income. If you're 160, you get nothing.
Yep.
Even if you have dependent children under college students.
But that's 10 grand worth of planning. I mean, that kind of planning, if you're missing by 10 grand, that's a planning issue.
Correct.
Yeah. That's something that could be easily overcome in planning. And
again, let me just say it again, that just because you don't get that stimulus payment doesn't mean that you're not entitled to it. What they're doing is they're using the tax, your tax return, the tax code, in order to give you some money, and they're giving you an advance on a tax break.
Right.
Is what they're doing. So just because you don't get it when it's issued, which will be a matter of days here, likely, then you can claim it on your 2021 tax return. Unfortunately, you have to wait until next February. You have to wait a year in order to get it. But let's say that you've done the planning. You can project, and that you're going to be eligible for it. What could you do? You could adjust your withholding.
Interesting.
And give yourself the credit instead of waiting for the government to send it to you.
Yeah.
Give yourself the credit by lowering your withholding. Do a projection. What are your taxes going to look like next year?
Yep.
That's the way to do it. College students didn't qualify before. There was an age limit in order to get the stimulus payment, the credit. They count this time around.
Excellent.
Let's say mom is living in the house. She doesn't have a lot of income, and you can claim her as a dependent. Guess what? This time around, you get the stimulus payment.
Wow.
For your relatives.
Yeah.
Let's say your brother's living with you.
How do you qualify as a dependent, by the way?
You have to have provided enough support equal to. You have to have provided more than half of the individual's support, and their income has to be below a certain threshold in order to qualify as a dependent.
Yeah. Have to be a relative?
Does not have to be a relative.
Mm-hmm.
Does not have to be a relative. Could be anybody. I don't think. Does it have to be a relative? Let me. Let me amend my answer and say, let me check on that.
And support is defined as someone living in the house, for example.
You can allocate a portion of your household expenses, mortgage, utilities, that sort of thing, to all the individuals in the house, in the household.
Yeah.
So as long as you're providing more than 50% of that person's support, do you have to be a relative? I don't know. I'd have to look that one up just to be sure. So what else did I have to say about that? Most recent year on record, right, which you talked about. And just as a reminder, if you didn't get the last stimulus payment, you can still qualify when you file your 2020 income tax return. So that's no doubt there's going to be a lot of questions about this stimulus payment. They're going to make the payments the same way they did last time. They're going to try to deposit directly into your bank account. If they can't, they might send you a check, or they might send you a debit card.
Yeah. You watch for the debit card.
Watch for
That was a problem last time.
Watch for the debit card. They're going to try to get this money out pretty quickly, and no doubt there's going to be a "Where's my payment" link that you can go to check on your payment.
According to Intuit, in June of 2019, you can claim a non-relative as a dependent if they meet all the requirements under the qualified relative rules. The main requirements is that they lived in your home for the entire year and they did not have a gross income for the year of $4,050 or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the income threshold.
Yep.
Right. That would qualify for anybody, including relatives.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Answers that question.
There you go.
Yeah, we don't have to go back to it later on.
My dog a dependent? They have to be the same species?
I believe, Lou, they have to be.
Because he's pretty dependent.
They have to be
I'm just
human
saying.
beings. They have to be human
Okay.
beings.
All right.
Hey, so let's talk about unemployment insurance. This is all we're going to have time to get to. Is going to talk about unemployment insurance. So this time around, the unemployment insurance, they're going to have a federal benefit that's going to get added on to your state unemployment benefit amount, and just because you're not qualified for the full state benefit, you still might be able to qualify for the federal benefit. It's not going to be as rich as the last one. It's going to be $300. How long it lasts for? I'm not sure. 25. Looks like a total of 25 weeks, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to extend that benefit. It's going to be $300 on top of whatever your other unemployment benefits would be. I have no idea if this is going to affect self-employed individuals like it did the last time around. Look for clarification on that as well. But I think that the most, wait a second here, benefits, there is something in here about the self-employed. So benefits through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which covers the self-employed, gig workers, part-timers, and others who are typically ineligible for regular unemployment benefits, would be available for a total of 79 weeks, up from 50, and run through September 6th. So there is some additional benefit for the self-employed. They under this rule, if your income, here's that magic threshold, 150,000. Although unemployment benefits are taxable, the new tax law would make the first $10,200 of benefits tax-free for people with incomes less than $150,000. And it says here that this applies to 2020 only, which seems odd.
So any unemployment you received in 2020 would be subject to this.
That's what it's saying here, and that seems really odd.
It does seem odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought that this was going to be effective for 2021, not for 2020, but it is suggesting here that your unemployment benefits for 2020 might be exempted from income tax. I'll have to get a clarification on that as well, to see the bill once it's actually passed. And
Gonna pass the bill and know what's in it.
it says if you're already receiving unemployment benefits, payments would generally be extended for another 25 weeks until September 6th. And the weekly supplemental benefit, which is provided on top of your regular benefit, again, will remain at $300. So
Is that about the additional federal benefit? Because they can't tell the states to extend, or they're going to fund the states to extend. States run unemployment.
right. So they're just going to say, here's the federal benefit. You guys administer it. And they'd have to determine if that person qualifies for the federal benefit. And even though they're not getting state benefits.
But that 25-week extension there is dependent
for
on whether
federal.
the state.
No, I don't think it's dependent on whether or not you qualify for state unemployment benefits. I think you qualify for the federal benefit.
Well, without a state unemployment benefit.
Well, I think if you qualify for the federal, you'd probably qualify for a state benefit as well. Yeah, I mean, you have to be unemployed. So if you go back to work, you're not eligible for the either the state or the federal benefit. Yeah, so I think you'd have to qualify first for the state benefit in order to get it. And if your state benefits run out, you'd still likely qualify for the federal extension.
Interesting.
Now, to think about it. So you're governor. Your the commissioner or whatever it is. That's
Don't ask me to think like a
unemployment-
governor. I'm from Massachusetts.
You're running the state unemployment office and trying to figure out how to do all this. So it just adds to their workload, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it could be a gap. It could be a gap in benefits because it says here that it might take a while for the states to reprogram. So
Reprogram.
reprogram their computer system in order to accommodate the new benefits. So so there could be a gap in benefits.
My state's got a lot of computer
by the
issues
way,
going on.
To answer your question, suggests that your state benefits run out, but you would be eligible for a federal benefit, but because they haven't programmed it into the system, you're not going to get your benefit as much times as they work it all out.
Great.
Yeah.
Given
Isn't that great?
Given the vaccine system here in Massachusetts, how well that worked.
Yeah. And so Lou, there's some stuff here on health insurance. Cobra.
Really?
Yeah, Cobra. They're going to allow some changes or make some changes, and actually give you your Cobra extension of benefits for free. How's that going to work?
I don't know.
Do you know what Cobra is?
Cobra is the self-employed.
No. So Cobra is when you lose your employment, unfortunately, and this is something that's kind of changed, but most people's health insurance are tied to their employment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you lose your employment, you typically lose your health insurance. So years ago, they created this law that says that if you lose your job, your employer can't just terminate your health insurance without giving you the opportunity to continue it, but you'd have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's Cobra.
Okay.
An extension, it depends on what the situation is as to how long it goes. By the way, Massachusetts was like one of the first states to create this extension of benefits, and then the feds realized, hey, not a bad idea. So the this says that as part of this pandemic relief, they're going to the government, the federal government, is going to pay for your Cobra benefits.
Wow.
Remember what I said? There's some planning opportunities here.
Yeah.
Let's say you're not getting along with your boss, and the only reason why you're sticking around
Is the healthcare.
is the health insurance. Maybe now's the time to go look for another job.
Wow.
Get laid off. Right. Get laid off.
Just
Feds are going to pay for my health insurance.
yeah.
And they're going to give me an extra $300 on top of my regular benefits. I could take a few months off.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty good deal.
Unfortunately, that option is not available to me. All right, so let's take a break. When we come back, we're gonna end it there. There's a lot more to talk about here. So much more,
And we will over the coming weeks.
Yeah. So when this actually gets signed into law, which is going to happen this week, so we'll pick it up again on Monday, and we'll go over some of the more the other benefits, as well as some of the details on this other stuff that we talked about, because we'll have a better idea when we see it. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Whether you're saving money for your children's education, preparing for retirement, or deciding on the right life insurance plan, you can count on the professionals at Andover Advisory Group. Established in 1996, our company is responsible for providing financial planning services to individuals seeking sound financial advice. We create a comprehensive financial plan that serves as a framework for organizing the pieces of your financial life so that you can focus on your goals and understand what it takes. And a financial plan can help you prioritize. For example, how saving for college might impact your ability to save for your retirement. Having a clear perspective will allow you to pick the right strategies and confidently choose suitable products and services. Best of all, you'll have the peace of mind that comes from knowing that your financial life is on track. Call us at 978-691-5005 to book your free initial consultation. That's 978-691-5005. Hi, this is Jeffrey Shank, a chartered financial consultant and the host of the Talk Money Show. I've been helping my clients for more than 30 years, and now I'm going to help you. Join us to learn about the financial issues that concern you the most. You'll hear from the experts on a range of topics, get some great ideas, and it's all designed to help you make more out of your money. So tune in to Talk Money right here on Eagle News Radio. Welcome back. So, I don't know if you noticed, Lou, but interest rates are on the rise.
They are. That's right.
We have been in a historically low interest rate environment, mostly due to a series of calamities, I would say, that have stalled the economy and in an effort to get things starting and going all the way back to the financial crisis.
Yeah, is that the origin of it? Yeah,
that was pretty much, yeah. And I mean, interest rates were already on the decline.
Yeah,
leading up to that, and it was mostly due to a slowing economy. But then the financial crisis and things just collapsed.
Let me ask my favorite question: what changed?
What changed?
Yeah,
to result in higher interest rates.
What changed in the last 2 weeks that all of a sudden interest rates are?
It's not so much the last 2 weeks, but it's been probably a little over a month, I'd say, that we've seen a significant rise in rates. In fact, we started the year on the 10-year bond, a little less than 1%, but it was even lower than that a couple of months earlier. We got down to like 0.5%. And it was, I think it even got a little bit below that. And they were talking about potentially negative interest rates. So what has changed in the last couple of months? What has changed is our perception of economic growth and the speed at which we might grow, and creating some inflation concerns, which is putting pressure on yields. That's the bottom line. We've seen a steep rise in yields on what's called the longer end of the yield curve, which would be the longer maturity debt instruments that are out there. And typically this is the yields that are quoted are the yields on government bonds, for a very good reason. Is because that the only risk in a U.S. government bond anyway is the interest risk. There's no credit risk. Presumably, the federal government is going to make good on all their obligations.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Just go to the couch cushions and find the money. They always do.
Yeah. So we've seen a significant rise in yields. And why is that important, you ask? Well, it's important if you're a conservative investor, if you have some of your money invested, your 401k invested in fixed income securities in the bond market, because what we know is that interest rates and bond prices have an inverse relationship.
Right.
And what I thought I'd do is talk about that in a little greater detail and show a couple of examples of what that means to you. Because if you are a conservative investor and you have put some of your money in the bond market, you may be shocked to learn that the value of your investments are actually declining, even though they're supposed, and how much they potentially could decline. And so we were at 0.5% maybe 6 months ago. Now we're at 1.5%.
Yeah,
1.5% and potentially rising. So let's just take a look at it. So let's see. So rising rates, right? So I've got a slide that shows what happens if interest rates rise. Now I'm using a 4% interest rate. Keep in mind that we're much lower than that.
Yeah.
But this really is, it's essentially a mathematical certainty. There's an equation that is used to determine how much the price will change depending on.
Really?
Yes. It's a mathematical certainty. So we know that if the only risk is interest rate risk, now if we're talking about corporate bonds, for example,
right,
then there is other risks, including credit risk.
Sure.
The ability of the issuing company
To pay. Yeah.
to be able to pay it back.
Yep.
But when we're talking about U.S. obligations, federal bonds,
Full faith and credit to the U.S. government.
right? So the
Yep.
only risk is interest rate risk. So there's an equation that we can plug numbers into, and it's a function of the duration of the bond itself,
Yep.
which is different from the maturity.
Right.
You have to keep that in mind. And I'm not going to go into the details of this, but you could, if you wanted to, just plug in the difference in interest rates, and you could predict how much the price of your bond will change. But
Right.
this is an example, and what we're talking about here.
Let me summarize, see if I have this. The basic premise here is if you own a bond for 0.5%, and bonds
It was issued at 0.5%.
issued at 0.5%, and bonds
Yes.
are yielding 1.5%. Now,
Yes.
no one's going to buy your bond because they can get 1.5 by
No one's going to buy your bond unless what?
and
You're willing to sell it
at
for
a reduced price,
less than the
Right.
the price that you paid for it.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Less than the maturity value.
Yeah.
Of that bond or par value.
And the only reason you do that is because you don't want to take it to maturity.
The only reason because you need to liquidate it for some reason.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, whatever your yield is, if the yield is more now, your bond is worth less because people can just get another bond with a higher yield.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the market. So what we're talking about here is the market price. Now
Right.
the par value is the par value.
Right.
It's always going to, but you have to hold it to maturity in order to get that par value. So if you're selling it in the market to
Mhm.
somebody,
Yep.
then you have to adjust the price up or down.
Sure.
So actually, did I do that right? I did that wrong. I want to show you first what happens in a interest rate environment where rates go down.
Okay.
Okay. So your bond at today's interest rate, 2%, is worth $1,082.
Yep.
Interest rates go down. This is what was happening in the market.
Right.
Previously, we saw interest rates decline. And so you bought your bonds, you bought your 2% bond, and now all of a sudden yields are 1%. So using your example, if somebody wants to buy your 2% bond and interest rates are only at 1%,
Right.
what do they have to do?
Pay more.
They have to pay a premium in order to get your bond.
Mhm.
Exactly, in order to equalize it in the market,
Yep.
to reflect the actual reality of the market. So your bond goes from 2% down to 1%. Now your bond is worth $1,172 instead of $1,081. And if interest rates go to 0%, likelihood of that happening anytime soon now
Yep.
is diminishing. Let's
But
put it that way.
2% difference in interest rate represents here 20+% in value of the bond.
You did that. You did the math.
I
Lou.
did the math.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A 2% change in rates equates to a 20% gain in the value of that bond.
Wow. Pretty good return.
Not a bad return on something that's pretty conservative.
Right.
Again, we're not looking at credit risk here. We're talking about a bond that has no credit risk, presumably a
Right.
bond issued by the federal government. So what happens if interest rates rise? Well,
Go the other way.
it goes the other way, right?
Yep.
So today's interest rate, let's say, is 4%. And it goes, so the value of that bond that was issued previously has a value that originally had a value of $1,000 is now $925.
Yep.
But as interest rates rise, it has a continual negative impact on that price. At 5%, that bond now in the market is only worth $856. And if it goes to 6, now it's only worth $794.
Mhm.
Lou, did you do the math on that one? How
Well,
much
from
of a decline?
4% to 6%, it's, I don't know, 17%, 15, 16, 17%.
So we
My
lost.
quick
in this
math isn't that
case,
good.
We lost over $100. We lost $130 on 925. What do you got?
Hang on. I got to pull out a calculator for that. $100 on 925.
No, we lost $130 roughly.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, we lost $130 on 925. 130 divided by 925, right? Yeah.
14%.
We lost 14%.
Mhm.
Now, and that's on a 2% change.
Yes.
And by the way, that's true no matter what the interest rates are. It's the change.
The percentage change.
It's not the percentage change, just to be clear.
Okay.
It's the change in the percentage.
Yes.
It's the change in the yield.
Yes.
It's the change in the yield that determines. So if it's a 2% decline, you're going to lose on this particular example. The duration is another factor that's important. So what you need to know is that the shorter the duration, the less of an impact it will have on the price. The longer the duration, the more of an impact it's going to have on the price.
The one thing I noticed here, though, is that you make more money with a decline in interest rates and a decline of 2% than you lose with a gain of 2%.
Interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
makes
that's
sense because it compounds.
Well, it's not so much compounding.
Yeah.
It's the number that you're starting with. The same is true if when you lose money in stocks and then you have to make up. If you lose 20% of the value of your stock investment,
You got to recover more.
you
than
have to
20%.
recover more than 20%. So the same thing applies.
Yep.
That's why. So, I mean, it's all math. That's why I love this. That's why I love this business. It's all math. So,
Well, yeah. See, it's all simple and it's all fun and it's all elegant if you can tell me which way interest rates are going.
yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
What does the most recent activity in yields tell us, though?
Interest rates are going up.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
We may have reached a bottom. We may have. I'm not so sure.
Which is why I ask why.
Why?
Because-
What changed me?
Because you have to figure out, what changed. Because you have to figure out, to figure out what's going to happen going forward, you have to figure out why it's happening now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
And if I read your answer correctly, it was people are a little more optimistic about economic growth.
Yes.
So I have to ask
Doesn't
the
it make
question,
sense?
Does it? Why?
Doesn't it?
Why? What's changed?
What's changed?
Yeah.
A vaccine
Yeah.
that more than likely is going to has the potential by this summer to create a herd immunity situation.
Yeah. Well, we've got conflicting results on that, but yeah. Okay. So people are jumping in early on the COVID recovery.
Well, yeah. Oh, actually, I think they were jumping in
Late.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
this-
yeah.
Yeah.
That's when they were jumping in, but I mean, whether it's warranted or not, because I don't think this is who said this week was it Biden who said it's not a light switch situation, and I tend to agree.
You
with
have to think about this.
Yeah.
Low.
It's dampening expectations.
You're you're one of the most cynical people that I know,
politically, yes,
politically speaking.
yes,
Yes. So Biden, we get the jobs report
yes,
that says that almost 400,000 new jobs were created
Mhm.
in the month of February.
Right.
And they're trying to pass this $1.9 trillion stimulus
Mhm.
package to jumpstart an economy that quite possibly, by all indications, has already been jump-started.
Yeah.
So what do you say?
What
Do
do
you
I-
talk positively about the economy and the job situation, or do you talk negatively about it in anticipation of this vote in the Senate?
Oh, well, yeah. You got to create a need to pass,
Well, you just said
pass the bill.
Biden says it's not like a light switch.
Yeah.
I actually think it might be.
But he's dampening expectations.
Why would you do that if you're president of the United States? Why wouldn't you talk optimistically about the economy? and
Because
future
if we're
growth
not
and-
fully recovered on April 1st or May 1st, people are going to start looking at him. And
yeah,
because obviously a lot of
Yeah, I
people
agree.
are feeling like,
I agree, but no question in my mind that his remarks were designed specifically to make sure that everybody knows that the stimulus package is absolutely necessary,
Oh, yeah.
and there's no reason why we shouldn't be
Oh, yeah.
we shouldn't be passing it. So
need it.
Yeah. So but getting back to interest rates, and that's really important because as the economy starts to pick up, and there's some people are forecasting 8 or 9% GDP growth in 2021.
Yeah.
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 And if that's the case, and we're saying, what is the definition of inflation, though?
It's more money than goods to buy it with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it is.
Buy with it.
I'm sorry.
More goods to buy with it. I meant to say. I misspoke.
Right. So it is more demand for goods than we have supply.
Right.
So using that definition, what's happening right now is that we're seeing money go into the economy. We're seeing things start to grow, people going back to work, more money in their pockets, potentially more demand for goods and services. But we're also seeing a shortage because of what happened last year. We're actually seeing a shortage in materials and the ability for manufacturers right now to actually create the goods that are needed, and that's decreasing the supply.
Sure.
So
now
we're
playing it close to the vest during the pandemic.
So quite possibly we're going to see inflation start to creep into the economy. That's going to create a situation where people are going to start thinking that yields have to be higher in the future, and that's going to start to manifest itself in the bond market. But there's something else going on too, and I think this is really important because supply and demand works in the markets, and it also works in the bond market. And so what happens to yields when there is more demand for bonds than there are supplies of bonds? What happens to yields?
Yields go down.
Go down.
Yeah.
What does that do to the price?
Puts the price up.
Now my first slide.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So what happens my first slide.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens when there's more supply of bonds than there are purchasers of bonds?
Price goes down. Yield goes down.
Yield goes up.
Yield goes up.
Right.
To get more
because
buyers. Yeah.
the yield goes up in order to attract buyers. The price goes down. So where do you think they're going to get this $1.9 trillion that they're going to inject into the economy over the next year or so?
Bonds.
They have to issue debt.
Yeah.
So the federal government is about to drop $1.9 trillion of debt into the markets. Could that be a reason why yields started to increase over the next few weeks?
Yes.
Not just inflation concerns.
Yes.
Because the Federal Reserve, by the way, is saying that it's transitory. Any inflation we might see, only going to be short-lived.
Yep.
That's what they're saying.
Just so we can sell our bonds.
So if that's true, if you believe that, and that's true, maybe it's not inflation that's pushing yields up. Maybe it's the fact that
it's marketing.
maybe it's the fact that we're going to have this huge supply of debt, and the Federal Reserve has not talked about any additional QE, meaning quantitative easing, where they would purchase bonds, which they're already doing, but there's a $1.9 trillion worth of bonds that are going to hit the market soon.
Right.
And somebody has to buy it. Typically, it would be for the last few years, it's been the Federal Reserve. They've been willing to buy whatever was issued.
Right.
That may not be true in the near term, because they haven't said anyway. They haven't signaled that they're going to be willing to buy this. So they're going to.
So the yield is going to have to be competitive.
Yield's going to have to be competitive. Could go up. And what do we know? That is going to have a negative impact on the price of those bonds. So what do you do about it, Lou?
What do I do about it?
Well, what does the average person do about these rising interest rates? First of all, you have to think about how it's going to impact. Because you said a decline of 17%. Does anybody invest in bonds to lose 17% of their money?
No.
And that could happen in less than a year.
Yeah.
If interest rates continue to rise at their current rate. Right? So what do you do about it?
if you're not going to hold the bond to maturity, you got to get out.
Well, you might want to get out.
Yep.
You could hold it to maturity if you have individual bonds. That's one way to do it. If you own mutual funds, it's just no way to do that. So you're going to see the negative effects. So you might want to get out. That's one way to do it. You might want to look for bond investments that are shorter maturity, shorter durations, so you don't have to concern yourself too much about the negative effect on rising rates on your bond investment. You could look for alternative ways of investing in debt, like corporate bonds, where credit risk is a factor that could moderate some of the decline in the price because of rising interest rates.
Right.
Because if the economy does grow, then that should shore up the balance sheets of companies, and that should actually improve their credit rating, and potentially that would help to keep the price of your bond higher. Mm-hmm. You could look at other types of instruments, including government bonds issued by the U.S. government that are inflation protected. That's another way to do it. Now, we may not see inflation go up, so it may not be a perfect way to do this,
right? Because
we could see inflation that doesn't. We could see a situation where we don't have inflation, but we have rising yields, and that would still hurt you. But there are bonds issued by the federal government that are inflation protected, and that could help as well. So a lot of ways you can deal with this, but I would say that this is an area where you haven't had to worry about it. And now is the time to look at your portfolio, see what kind of exposure you have, and see if there's some things that you need to do in order to minimize the negative impact of rising interest rates.
Everything you talked about seemed like mitigation.
Mostly mitigation.
Yeah.
Could there be opportunities? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
there might be.
If you've got money that you would normally be putting into bonds at this point, would you get into the market?
Well, maybe it's a question of maybe there's some money that you've had in stocks all this time that maybe should be going elsewhere, and maybe there's some opportunities to get higher yields in bonds if you time it properly.
Yeah,
that's another way to
wait
look
for
at
the
it as well.
Government bonds, the federal bonds to reach their peak.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can call their peak.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We could see rising yields have a negative impact on the stock market, and a lot of analysts have been saying that the volatility of the last couple of weeks has all been due to the pace at which yields have been rising. It's pretty amazing, actually, to see them rise.
Because part of the high tide of the market over the last decade or more has been the fact that bonds haven't been a significant alternative. So a lot of money has gone into the market. If bonds become competitive, that's going to take money out of the market.
Correct.
Theoretically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thinking anyway.
Yeah.
That's the thinking. I mean, obviously those people who made that decision might regret it if interest rates continue to rise at the pace that they have been rising, because it's going to have a negative effect. But yeah. So bottom line is, I really think that that'd be a good idea for everybody to take a look at their overall portfolio. And if you've been very conservative and you've been investing in bonds all this time, and you've had a pretty good run.
Yeah,
because interest rates have been going to, getting close to zero, and that's been having a positive effect on the overall value of your bond portfolio.
And chances are, the closer to retirement you probably move some money into bonds. So you need to tend them and make sure you get the most out of them.
Yeah, and so the next few years could be just the opposite of what we experienced over the last several years. And so you'd want to just take a look. We can help you analyze that. If you want to get in touch with me after the show, use the toll-free number 877-475-2062. Send me an email, jeff@talkmoneyradio.com, or you can just send us a message right on Facebook. We'd be glad to answer your questions and take a look at your investment portfolio. We can very quickly analyze the risks that might be associated with your investments if interest rates were to rise, and suggest some things that might help to fix that problem.
So plenty of reasons for that discussion right now. We just talked about the 2021 stimulus package and how your tax stance may affect it. You want to make sure you're in line there.
Yes.
And if you have bond holdings, and that's something you should be reconsidering and reevaluating at this point.
And so we mentioned it, on a previous show, and I'll say this again, that there were some changes that were retroactive. There were some provisions of the last stimulus bill that were actually retroactive to 2018 and 2019.
Really?
Yeah, and these were good. These were good. Typically, that when you talk about those types of retroactive changes,
Yeah.
you think negative, but in this case, it was positive, and specifically, it was the tuition and fees deduction for college expenses that went away in 2018, but was reinstated as part of the stimulus, the last stimulus package. And you are allowed, if you would have been able to take it, but couldn't because they rescinded it, you can go back and look at your 2018 and 2019 tax return now and claim the tuition and fees deduction.
Interesting.
Now, it was effectively replaced by a credit, and so the credit might actually be more advantageous to you than the tuition and fees deduction. But for a lot of people, they couldn't take the credit because their AGI, their adjusted gross income, was too high, but they might have been eligible to take the tuition and fees deduction. So there's a reason to take a look at your prior tax returns and see if there's some. So if you're
and tuition and fees is not housing.
It's not housing.
I mean, tuition and fees is significant, but the bulk of college costs are often housing.
It doesn't include room and board. Yeah. So, but there's a reason to take a look at your prior tax returns. So come on in. We'd be glad to review that with you and see if there's anything to do and help you to amend that tax return for prior years. And there's other reasons why you would want to amend the return, not just tuition and fees deduction. But if you're a family with student in college for the last couple of years and you're looking for some additional money from the government, why wouldn't you?
There's some opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so another provision in this new bill is an enhancement of the child tax credit, and they are talking about making this more permanent. So it's a significant increase in the overall child tax credit, and they're talking about making it longer term than just the current year. So hey, but tune in next week. We'll review the rest of this, and we'll have a signed package, so we'll know better exactly what the details are.
It's a complex bill.
Yeah, and it's like I said, there's something in it for just about everybody. But again, this is creating, I think, some opportunities primarily because of the thresholds that they're putting in place. So they're saying that you're eligible, but if you make above a certain income level, you're not going to be eligible for some of these benefits. So it would be to your benefit to look at, as we progress through 2021, to look at or to be conscious of those thresholds.
Right.
And if there's an opportunity somehow, some way, I'm not telling you not to work and reduce your income to take advantage of this. That'd be crazy.
But a complete phase out window is about $10,000 a year in most instances, which is a matter of planning for your.
Yeah, it's not that much money. You're absolutely right, Lou.
It's not about a big change. It's about just planning.
Right.
Properly.
So it could be a 401k, or maybe you don't sell that stock, or you harvest some tax losses. A lot of ways you can do that. And you might just be able to do it with an individual retirement account, or maybe a combination of things. So we'll be here next week. Thanks for tuning in today. Remember, in the meantime, good sound advice is way better than advice that just sounds good. Thanks, Lou.